We will begin with Unit 2.2, The Three Questions, written by Leo Tolstoy, who was a Russian writer and was regarded as one of the greatest authors of all the time. He first achieved literary acclaim in his 20s with his semi autobiographical trilogy, Childhood, Boyhood, and Youth. So, children, this is a lesson in which a king wants to find answers to what he considers to be the three most important questions in his life. So, children, now let's read this passage and understand the story. Once a certain king had an idea if he always knew the right time to begin everything, if he knew who were the right people to listen to and who to avoid, the most important thing to do, he would never fail in anything that he would undertake, and above all, if he always knew what was the most undertake. Since he was convinced that he was right in thinking this way, he had a proclamation made in his kingdom. He would give a great reward to anyone who would teach him what the right time was for every action, who the most necessary people were, and how he might know the most important thing to do. Okay, children, now I'll begin with the explanation. So, children, there was a king who got an idea that he would be successful in his life if he had the answers to the three questions. The questions were: what is the right time to begin something? Which people should he listen to? And what is the most important thing for him to do? So, if he had the answers to all these, then he would never fail in taking any kind of decisions in his life. So the king declared to give a large sum of money as a reward to the one who could come up with the answers. Okay, children, now let's read this passage. Many learned people came to the court, but they all gave different answers. In reply to the first question, some said that to know the right time for every action, one must draw up in advance a table of days, months, and years, and must live strictly according to it. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action, but that not letting oneself be absorbed in idle pastimes, one should always attend to all that was going on and then do that was most essential. Yet others said that it was impossible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action, and that the king should instead have a council of wise people who would help him to fix the proper time for everything. Okay, children, now I'll begin with the explanation. So the king got different answers to his questions. His first question was answered by many wise men. So a few of them suggested him to prepare a timetable, while some other people wanted him to leave everything and involve himself in looking after works. A few of them suggested of having a council of wise men to decide everything for him, and others said that some work needed more attention than the other. Some gave their opinion to look into the future by taking the help of a magician. Okay, children, now let's read the further passage. Equally varied were the answers to the second question. Some said the people the king most needed were his counselors, others the priest, others the doctors, while some said the warriors were the most necessary. To the third question about what was the most important occupation, some replied that the most important thing in the world was science. Others said it was skill in warfare. And others again that it was religious worship. The king was convinced by none of these answers and gave the reward to none. So, children, now I'll begin with the explanation. To the second question also, he got different answers from various wise men. Like some said that the king should listen to his counselors to get the answers for which people should he listen to. Others said that the king should listen to the priest, doctors, while many others said that the soldiers were the most necessary. For his third question, that is, what is the most important occupation? He again got different answers. Some said science is very important, while others said warfare and religious worship is the most important occupation. However, the king wasn't satisfied with any suggestions, and so he did not give reward to anyone. Okay, children, now let's read the further passage. He decided instead to go to a hermit who was widely renowned for his wisdom. The hermit lived in a small hut in a forest which he never left. He spoke only to common folk. So the king put on simple clothes and, approaching the hermit's cell, dismounted his horse and left his bodyguard behind. When the king arrived, the hermit was digging the ground in front of his hut. He greeted the king but went on digging. The hermit was frail and weak, and each time he struck the ground with the spade and turned over a little earth, he breathed heavily. The king went up to him and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you to answer 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I most need? And to whom should I therefore pay most attention? And what affairs are the most important and need my first attention? Okay, children, I'll begin with the explanation. The king decided to get his answers from a hermit. So, children, a hermit is a religious person who lives up in a mountain near the forest. They live a lonely life. So, this hermit was known for his vast knowledge, and he does not talk or meet anyone of the rich or royal people. He only talks to the common people. Thus, the king decided to wear simple clothes and go so that the hermit would talk to him. On reaching near the hermit's hut, the king got down from the horse and left behind his bodyguards so that the hermit couldn't know that he was a king. So when the king reached the hermit's hut, the hermit was digging the ground. He greeted the king, but did not stop digging. He was very weak, old, and delicate. He breathed heavily as he was digging. The king went near him and told him that he was here to get answers to the 3 questions which he had. Okay children, now let's read further. The hermit listened to the king but said nothing. He just spat on his hand and resumed digging. The king watched in silence for a while. Then, feeling sorry for the hermit, he said, "You are tired. Let me take the spade and work a while for you." The hermit silently handed over the spade and sat down on the ground. When he had dug 2 beds, the king stopped and repeated his questions. The hermit again gave no answer, but rose, stretched out his hand for the spade, and said, "Now rest a while and let me work a bit." But the king did not give him the spade and continued to dig. 1 hour passed and another. The sun began to sink behind the trees, and the king at last stuck the spade into the ground and said, "I came to you, wise man, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me none, please say so, and I will go." "Here comes someone running," said the hermit. "Let us see who it is." Okay children, now I'll begin with the explanation. So the hermit listened to the king, but he did not say anything. He spat on his hand and continued digging. So the king first watched him patiently, but after some time he felt pity on the hermit and asked him that he must be tired, and the king started digging the ground. After the king had dug 2 large holes, he stopped digging and again asked the hermit the 3 questions. But again the hermit did not respond. He got up and told the king to rest for a while, and he would continue digging. But the king did not give him the spade and continued digging. Now 2 hours had passed and the sun was setting. On getting tired, the king stopped digging and kept the spade aside and said to the hermit that he had come here to get the answers from him, and that if he does not have the answers, then he should tell so that he could go back home. Then suddenly the hermit answered that someone was running and that they should go and see it. Okay children, we will stop here for now. The next part of the story will be explained to you in the next video.